welcome to the very first deep dive.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's amazing to think that every medicine we rely on, every pill or injection,
Oh, yeah.
started as just an idea,
Crazy.
right? Today we are diving deep into the incredible journey of drug development.
Yeah.
How that initial spark of scientific inspiration transforms into a treatment available at your local pharmacy.
It's really quite a process.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that this journey isn't a quick sprint. It's more like an ultra marathon.
Wow.
We're talking about a process that takes 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
Sometimes even longer.
Oh, wow.
And costs hundreds of millions,
I-
even billions of dollars.
That's a serious commitment of time and resources.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder why it takes so long and why it's so expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, we could put a human on the moon faster than we can develop a new drug.
Well, you have to remember,
Yeah.
we're not launching a rocket.
Right.
We're introducing new substances into the human body.
Of course.
The stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
We need absolute certainty
Right.
that a new treatment is both safe and effective before it reaches patients.
That makes sense.
There's simply no room for shortcuts when it comes to human health.
I get it. So safety and efficacy are paramount.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's break down this marathon, shall we?
Sure.
What are the major stages of drug development?
So broadly speaking, the journey can be divided into 5 key stages.
Okay.
Discovery, preclinical research, clinical trials, regulatory review, and post-marketing surveillance.
Okay, 5 stages.
Yeah.
It sounds almost manageable when you put it like that,
Right.
but I have a feeling each stage is packed with complexity.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Let's start with the first stage, discovery.
All right.
This is where it all begins. The spark of an idea.
Right.
Scientists identify a disease they want to target
Okay.
and then zoom way in to the molecular level to figure out what's going wrong.
Right.
They're searching for the root cause, the target that needs to be fixed to restore health.
So it's kind of like finding the glitch in a computer program
Yeah.
that's causing the whole system to crash.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
And once they've identified the target,
Yeah.
the hunt begins for a molecule that can interact with it in a specific way.
Right.
Imagine trying to find the perfect key for a tiny, intricate lock.
Okay.
That key is our potential drug.
Gotcha. So I can only imagine the number of keys they have to test before they find the right one.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So how do they even begin to narrow down the search?
It's a good question.
That takes us to the second stage, preclinical research.
Okay.
This is where scientists put those potential drug candidates through a rigorous series of tests.
Right.
But before they ever reach a human.
So it's like a boot camp for drugs.
Yes.
Weeding out the weak before they go into battle.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. The first step is testing in the lab.
Okay.
Using cells and tissues to see if the drug actually works against the target. Does it bind to the lock? Does it produce the desired effect?
Right.
And importantly, is it toxic to cells?
Safety first, always.
Yes.
So it's a lot of trial and error, I imagine.
It is. And if a drug candidate shows promise in these initial tests, it moves on to animal studies.
Okay.
This is where things get a bit more complex, ethically speaking.
Right.
But it's a crucial step in understanding how a drug behaves in a living organism.
I can see why animal studies would be a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about why they're necessary and how they're conducted?
Of course.
Right.
Animal studies provide critical information about a drug's safety and effectiveness in a complex biological system.
Right.
We can observe how the drug is absorbed, distributed throughout the body, metabolized,
Why?
and eventually eliminated.
Right.
Animal studies also allow us to determine safe and effective dosage ranges, something we can't ethically do in the initial stages of human testing.
I see. So it's about minimizing risk as much as possible before moving to human trials.
Precisely.
Gotcha.
And while there are always ethical considerations,
Of course.
these studies are conducted under strict regulations and oversight
Right.
to ensure the humane treatment of animals.
Okay.
It's a responsibility that scientists and research institutions take very seriously.
Okay, so let's imagine our drug candidate has successfully navigated this preclinical boot camp.
Right.
What happens next?
Then it's time for the big leagues.
Wow.
Human clinical trials.
All right.
This is where we finally test the drug on humans
Okay.
in a very controlled and staged process.
This is what we often hear about in the news, right?
Yeah.
There's large-scale trials involving thousands of patients.
Exactly.
Okay.
But before we get to those massive phase 3 trials,
Yeah.
there are 2 earlier phases.
Okay.
Clinical trials are divided into 3 phases,
Right.
each building on the previous one,
Right.
and providing more and more data about the drug's safety and effectiveness. And this is one of the main reasons why drug development takes years.
Makes sense. Okay, break it down for us. What happens in each phase?
So in phase 1, safety is the absolute priority.
Right.
We test the drug on a small group of healthy volunteers, not patients with the disease,
Okay.
to assess its safety profile.
Gotcha.
We're looking at how it's processed in the body,
Yeah.
how long it stays in the bloodstream, and what side effects, if any, it causes.
So it's like dipping your toes in the water before jumping in the pool.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then comes phase 2,
All right.
where we expand the trial to include patients who actually have the disease we're targeting.
Okay.
Now the focus shifts to determining if the drug is actually effective in treating the condition.
So does it work in the real world, not just in the lab?
Precisely.
Okay.
And finally, we have phase 3. The large-scale trials you mentioned.
Right.
These trials often involve thousands of patients
Wow.
across multiple locations. And they compare the new drug to existing treatments or a placebo.
Right.
Phase 3 trials are the gold standard for gathering evidence about a drug's effectiveness and long-term safety.
So it sounds like a really rigorous, stepwise approach.
It is.
With each phase adding another layer of certainty. But I'm guessing the journey doesn't end there, does it?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Even if a drug shows promise in all 3 phases of clinical trials, it still faces another hurdle.
Oh, what's that?
Regulatory review.
In the U.S., that would be the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
The FDA or similar agencies in other countries play a crucial role in protecting public health.
Right.
They have the challenging task of reviewing all the data from those years of clinical trials.
Wow.
Scrutinizing everything.
Okay.
Safety, efficacy manufacturing processes.
Right.
To ensure the drug meets the highest standards.
That sounds like a pretty tough exam to pass.
It is,
Yeah.
and it should be. These agencies are responsible for making sure that the benefits of a new drug truly outweigh any potential risks.
Right.
They ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
Is the manufacturing process reliable? Are the labeling and instructions clear?
Right.
Only after this thorough and independent review will a drug be approved for market?
Okay, so it's reassuring to know that there's such a rigorous system in place to protect patients.
Definitely.
So once a drug gets that regulatory stamp of approval, it's game on, right? It's finally ready to be prescribed and used.
It's certainly a major milestone.
Yeah.
But the journey isn't over yet.
Oh, really? What else is there?
There's one more crucial stage.
Okay.
Post-marketing surveillance.
Post-marketing surveillance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does that involve?
So even after a drug is on the market and being used by potentially millions of people, it's still under scrutiny.
Interesting.
Scientists and regulatory agencies continue to monitor the drug for long-term effects, looking for any rare or delayed side effects that might not have emerged during clinical trials.
Oh, so it's not a one-time approval and then everyone just moves on.
Not at all.
Okay.
Drug development is a dynamic, ongoing process.
Right.
New information about a drug's safety and efficacy can emerge over time, and the FDA continues to evaluate this information and can take action if needed.
That's really reassuring.
Yeah.
So it's a constant process of learning, adapting, and ensuring the well-being of patients.
Exactly.
Okay, this whole process is fascinating.
It is.
But before we move on, I'd love to know more about something that really caught my eye in the research.
Okay.
The challenge of developing oral dosage forms.
Right.
I mean, swallowing a pill seems so simple,
Yeah.
but I'm realizing there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Developing an effective oral dosage form is a science in itself.
Okay.
Just getting the drug into your body isn't enough. It needs to be absorbed properly to have the desired effect.
Right.
And that's where the concept of bioavailability comes into play.
Bioavailability, I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
It's not just about how much drug is in the pill,
Right.
but how much of it actually reaches the bloodstream where it can do its job.
Exactly.
Okay.
Bioavailability is key. And it depends on a complex interplay of factors.
Or like what?
The drug's solubility, its ability to pass through membranes,
Okay.
the formulation of the pill itself, and even individual differences
Oh, wow.
in how our bodies absorb and process drugs.
So even if a drug is incredibly promising,
Yeah,
a poorly designed pill could render it ineffective.
that's right.
Wow.
And that's why pharmaceutical scientists spend a great deal of time and effort in
Right.
formulation development.
Okay.
They carefully select inactive ingredients,
Mhm.
called excipients,
Good.
to optimize the drug's release, absorption, and stability.
Wow. I never realized there was so much science behind something as seemingly simple as swallowing a pill.
It's a fascinating area of research, full of challenges and innovation.
Well, this is all incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground already.
Yeah.
From the initial spark of an idea to the complex world of formulation and bioavailability.
Right.
It's clear that bringing a new medicine to market is an incredible feat of scientific collaboration
Oh, yeah.
and perseverance.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
You're welcome. You know what's truly remarkable about oral dosage forms?
Yeah.
Is how they bridge the gap between scientific discovery
Right.
and the patient experience.
I see.
It's not just about the active ingredient itself. It's about creating a delivery system
Right.
that works in harmony with the body.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So formulation scientists are like the master chefs of drug development,
that's a great analogy.
carefully blending ingredients to create the perfect recipe.
Exactly. And just like a master chef considers flavor, texture, and presentation,
Yep.
formulation scientists focus on factors like solubility, stability, and of course, bioavailability.
Right.
They need to ensure the drug is delivered to the right place at the right time and in the right amount.
And I imagine they also have to make sure the final product doesn't taste horrible.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to dread taking their medicine.
Patient compliance is a crucial consideration,
Right.
especially for medications that need to be taken long term.
Mm-hmm.
A bitter pill, no matter how effective, won't do much good if the patient avoids taking it.
That's true. So you mentioned dissolution studies earlier. Can you walk us through those?
Sure.
Why are they so crucial in this process?
Dissolution studies are essentially like time-lapse photography,
Okay.
but for pills.
Interesting.
We use specialized equipment to mimic the conditions in the digestive tract,
Okay.
the temperature, the pH, the churning motions,
Right.
and we measure how quickly the drug dissolves from the pill over time.
So it's like a window into how the pill breaks down in the stomach and intestine.
Precisely.
Okay, cool.
And by analyzing the dissolution data,
Yeah.
we can optimize the formulation
Right.
to ensure the drug releases at the desired rate,
Right.
whether that's a quick burst or a slow, sustained release over hours.
I see.
We can also identify potential problems,
I think what?
like if the pill doesn't bring apart properly,
Mm-hmm.
or if the drug particles aren't adequately exposed to the digestive fluids.
This is really making me appreciate how much goes into designing an effective pill.
It's complex.
What are some of the factors that can affect how quickly a drug dissolves?
Well, the drug's solubility is a big one.
Okay.
Think of trying to dissolve sugar in water.
Right.
A highly soluble drug will dissolve quickly,
Yeah.
while a poorly soluble one might need some help.
So is that where those excipients, the inactive ingredients, come in?
Exactly.
When they boost the solubility of a drug?
Exactly. Excipients are the unsung heroes of drug formulation. Some act as solubilizers, helping the drug dissolve more readily in the digestive fluids.
Right.
Others improve the way the drug particles interact with those fluids, making sure they get adequately wetted.
Okay.
And still others can modify the drug's release, creating a sustained release formulation that delivers the medication over a longer period.
So it sounds like an intricate dance of chemistry and biology,
It is.
carefully choreographed to get the drug where it needs to go.
It truly is. And particle size also plays a role.
Okay.
Imagine trying to dissolve a sugar cube versus granulated sugar.
Right.
The granulated sugar, with its smaller particles and greater surface area,
Yeah.
will dissolve much faster.
Okay, that makes sense. So grinding a poorly soluble drug into a fine powder can help it dissolve more quickly.
Exactly. And then there's this fascinating concept called polymorphism.
Polymorphism.
Some drugs can exist in different crystalline forms,
Okay.
kind of like how carbon can form both diamond and graphite.
Interesting.
And these different forms, even though they're chemically the same, can have different solubilities.
Wow. I had no idea. It was so complex. So choosing the right crystalline form is crucial for optimizing dissolution.
Absolutely. And it's this attention to detail, this understanding of the interplay between chemistry, biology, and engineering
Right.
that allows us to create safe, effective, and reliable medications.
You mentioned earlier that the formulation isn't static. Can you elaborate on that?
Right. The formulation of a drug is not set in stone.
Okay.
It often undergoes refinements and improvements as we gather more knowledge about the drug's behavior in the body. Sometimes we discover that a slight tweak in the formulation can significantly enhance its bioavailability or reduce side effects.
A constant evolution. This is all incredibly insightful.
Good.
But I'm curious, are there certain challenges in drug development that are particularly difficult to overcome?
Certainly one of the biggest hurdles is developing drugs for diseases that affect the brain.
Oh, the brain.
The blood-brain barrier, a protective shield around the brain, is incredibly effective at keeping out harmful substances.
Right.
But unfortunately, it also blocks many potential drugs from reaching their targets.
So it's like trying to deliver a package to a high-security building.
Yes.
With a really strict doorman.
That's a great way to put it.
He's not letting anything in.
And researchers are constantly working on new strategies to overcome this obstacle.
Okay.
One approach is to design drugs that are more lipophilic or fat-soluble, which allows them to slip through the barrier more easily.
Okay.
Another is to package drugs in nanoparticles. Tiny delivery vehicles that can sneak past the defenses.
That's amazing. It's like a microscopic Trojan horse delivering the drug right to the target.
Exactly, and there are many other innovative approaches being explored.
Such as?
Like temporarily disrupting the barrier with focused ultrasound.
Oh, wow.
Or designing drugs that can hitch a ride on existing transport systems that cross the barrier.
It sounds like a constant game of scientific chess trying to outmaneuver the body's defenses.
That's a perfect analogy. And another challenge is developing drugs for rare diseases.
Rare diseases.
These conditions often affect only a small number of people.
Okay.
Making it difficult to recruit patients for clinical trials.
Right.
And attract investment from pharmaceutical companies.
I can see how that creates a difficult situation if fewer people have the disease.
Yeah.
The potential market for a new drug is smaller, which might discourage investment.
Right.
But these patients still deserve effective treatments.
Absolutely. And thankfully, there's been increasing recognition of the need to develop therapies for rare diseases.
Right.
Governments and regulatory agencies are offering incentives to encourage research and development in this area.
That's great.
And patient advocacy groups are working tirelessly to raise awareness and funding.
It's inspiring to see people coming together to address these challenges. But let's switch gears for a moment.
Sure.
And talk about a concept that often comes up in conversations about drug development.
Okay.
The idea of a magic bullet. Is this a realistic goal or just a Hollywood fantasy?
That's a great question. The magic bullet concept, a term coined over a century ago, envisions a drug that targets and destroys disease-causing agents with absolute precision, leaving healthy cells untouched.
So it's like a guided missile that takes out the enemy without causing any collateral damage.
That's the idea.
Okay.
But the human body is incredibly complex, and even our most targeted therapies can have unintended consequences.
I see.
We've made incredible progress in developing more precise treatments, but that perfect magic bullet with zero risk and absolute specificity remains elusive.
So it's more about managing expectations. Right? We can strive for greater precision and fewer side effects.
Yes.
But achieving perfect targeting might be an unrealistic goal.
You've hit the nail on the head. Drug development is a delicate balancing act, weighing the potential benefits of a treatment against its inherent risks.
Right.
And we're always striving to improve that balance, to develop drugs that provide the most benefit with the least harm.
Well said. This conversation has really opened my eyes to the complexities of drug development.
It's a fascinating field.
It's inspiring to see how scientists are constantly pushing the boundaries, tackling these challenges head on.
It's a truly remarkable field, and it's constantly evolving. Speaking of evolution, let's talk about some of the most promising areas of research.
Okay.
Those areas where we might see breakthroughs in the coming years.
Now you're talking. Let's hear about those game changers. What's on the horizon?
One area that holds immense potential is gene therapy.
Gene therapy, okay.
This revolutionary approach aims to treat diseases at their root by correcting faulty genes.
Wow. So imagine being able to cure inherited disorders like cystic fibrosis or sickle cell anemia.
Yeah.
By repairing the defective gene. It sounds like science fiction. Are we really that?
We're getting there.
Okay.
Well, gene therapy is still in its early stages. There have been some remarkable successes, particularly in treating certain types of cancer and rare genetic diseases.
That's amazing.
But of course, there are challenges.
Like what?
particularly ensuring the safety and long-term effectiveness of these therapies.
I can imagine that manipulating genes comes with a whole new set of ethical and safety considerations.
Absolutely, and that's why gene therapy research is conducted with extreme care and under strict regulatory oversight.
Makes sense.
But the potential benefits are so profound that this area of research is truly worth exploring.
It's incredible to think about the possibilities. What else is out there on the cutting edge?
Another promising area is immunotherapy,
Immunotherapy.
which harnesses the power of the body's own immune system to fight disease.
Wow.
This approach has already shown remarkable success in treating certain cancers, and researchers are exploring its potential for other conditions like autoimmune diseases and infectious diseases.
So it's like giving your body's natural defenses a supercharge, equipping them to better recognize and attack the enemy.
That's a great way to put it, and there are many different types of immunotherapy being developed.
Right.
Some boost the overall activity of the immune system, while others train specific immune cells to target and destroy diseased cells.
It's mind-blowing, and it sounds like we're moving towards a more personalized approach to medicine,
Yes.
tailoring treatments to an individual's unique genetic and immunological profile.
You're absolutely right. The future of drug development lies in precision medicine,
Precision medicine?
where treatments are tailored to the individual patient,
Okay.
taking into account their specific needs and characteristics.
Right.
And this is where advances in genomics, proteomics, and bioinformatics are playing a crucial role.
I see.
We're gaining an unprecedented understanding of the molecular basis of disease,
Yeah.
which is allowing us to develop more targeted and effective therapies.
This is all so fascinating. It sounds like we're on the cusp of a new era in medicine.
It's very exciting.
But I'm sure with all this progress, there are still challenges and setbacks along the way.
Yeah. Of course, drug development is a long and winding road,
Right.
full of unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah.
Not every promising lead will pan out,
Of course.
and setbacks are inevitable.
That's true.
But it's a journey driven by human ingenuity, perseverance, and a deep desire to improve human health.
So true. And it's important to celebrate the successes while also learning from the failures and keep pushing forward.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that drug development is a collaborative effort
Yeah.
involving scientists from many different disciplines, regulatory agencies, pharmaceutical companies, and most importantly, patients themselves.
It's a reminder that science is a human endeavor,
It is.
driven by a shared desire to understand, to heal, and to improve the well-being of humankind.
Well said.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
I'm glad.
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the complexities of drug development.
Good.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, there's one thing I'm still a bit fuzzy on.
Okay.
How do scientists actually measure bioavailability? It seems like a tricky thing to pin down.
It is tricky.
Yeah.
But thankfully, scientists have developed some clever methods to determine how much of a drug actually reaches the bloodstream.
Okay.
One common approach is to compare the blood concentration time profiles of a drug after it's taken orally versus intravenously.
Okay. I'm intrigued why intravenous.
Because with an intravenous injection, we know that 100% of the drug enters the bloodstream immediately,
Right.
bypassing the absorption hurdles of the digestive system.
Okay.
It's like setting a benchmark, a perfect score for bioavailability.
I see. So by comparing the oral profile to this intravenous standard,
Yeah?
scientists can calculate the percentage of the oral dose that actually reaches the bloodstream.
Precisely, and there's more to it than just the total amount absorbed.
Oh, really?
We also look at how quickly the drug is absorbed, how long it stays in the body,
Yeah.
and what the peak concentration in the blood is.
So it's not just about the quantity, but also about the timing and duration of the drug's presence in the bloodstream.
Exactly. We use terms like Cmax,
Tmax.
which refers to the maximum concentration of the drug in the blood,
Okay.
and AUC, which stands for area under the curve,
Right.
and represents the total exposure to the drug over time.
Okay, it's all starting to make sense now.
Yeah.
So by analyzing these parameters, scientists can fine-tune a drug's formulation and dosing regimen
Yeah.
to maximize its therapeutic effect.
Precisely. It's all about finding that sweet spot
Right.
where the drug delivers the most benefit with the least risk.
Right.
And remember, bioavailability can vary significantly depending on the formulation and even individual factors like age, genetics, and what you've eaten recently.
Wow, it really is a personalized journey.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we've learned about drug development in just this deep dive.
I know, right?
From the initial spark of an idea all the way to the intricacies of bioavailability, and the challenges of reaching those hard-to-treat areas like the brain.
There's a lot to it.
It's fascinating.
It's been a fascinating journey so far, hasn't it? But we're not quite done yet.
I know this is only part 2.
There's still so much more to explore.
You're right, we've only scratched the surface of this incredible world. Stay tuned for part 3 of our deep dive,
Yeah.
where we'll delve even deeper into the fascinating world of drug development.
It's remarkable to consider that the journey of a new medicine doesn't truly end even after it's approved and available to patients.
Yeah, you're right. We talked about post-marketing surveillance earlier, how drugs are continuously monitored for long-term effects and any rare side effects that might not have shown up in clinical trials. It's like the scientific process never really stops, always seeking more data and refining our understanding.
Precisely. And speaking of refining our understanding, I think it's worth circling back to the concept of bioavailability. It's such a fundamental aspect of drug development, and it ties together so many of the concepts we've been discussing.
Yeah, you're right. It's fascinating how something as seemingly simple as swallowing a pill can be so complex when you look at it from a scientific perspective. I'm curious, are there any specific examples that really highlight the importance of bioavailability?
Absolutely. One classic example involves grapefruit juice and certain medications. You might have heard that you shouldn't drink grapefruit juice while taking certain drugs.
Oh yeah, I remember reading something about grapefruit interfering with how the body metabolizes certain drugs.
That's exactly right. Grapefruit contains compounds that can inhibit an enzyme in the liver that's responsible for breaking down many medications. And when this enzyme is inhibited, the drug levels in the bloodstream can increase dramatically.
So instead of the drug being gradually metabolized, it's kind of hanging around longer than intended, leading to a higher concentration in the body.
Precisely. It's as if you've taken a much larger dose of the drug than intended, which can lead to a higher risk of side effects. In some cases, it can even be dangerous.
Wow, that's incredible. It really highlights how intricate the interplay between food drugs and our individual biology can be.
It certainly does, and it underscores the importance of understanding bioavailability and how it can be influenced by a variety of factors. Another example involves differences in how individuals absorb and metabolize drugs. For example, some people are genetically predisposed to metabolize certain drugs more slowly than others.
So even if two people take the same dose of a medication, their bodies might process it differently, leading to different levels of the drug in their systems.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of personalized medicine comes into play. By understanding an individual's genetic makeup, their lifestyle, and other factors, we can tailor their treatment to optimize the drug's effectiveness and minimize the risk of side effects.
It's fascinating how drug development is becoming more and more individualized, moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach.
It is, and this shift toward personalized medicine is driven by advances in fields like genomics and bioinformatics, which allow us to analyze an individual's genetic blueprint and predict how they might respond to certain medications.
It's incredible to think about how far we've come in our understanding of drug development, from those early days of trial and error to the precision and personalization we're seeing today.
It's truly remarkable, and it's important to remember that behind every breakthrough, every new treatment, there's a team of dedicated scientists, researchers, clinicians, and patients who have contributed to this incredible journey.
You're absolutely right. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of drug development, I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this journey. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for the complexity, the challenges, and the incredible triumphs of this field.
We encourage you to continue exploring, to ask questions, and to stay curious about the science that shapes our lives. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our health.
Well said, and until next time, keep those questions coming, and we'll do our best to delve deep and uncover the answers together.